there's really no like, oh, look at her, she's gonna start a podcast. I don't know, what does she know? All this bullshit, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, I gotta get her on the show. I gotta give her props for what everything she's done so far, which is really, to fucking start this is hard. 3, 2, 1, boom, and we are on with Nikki Spo. Nikki, when was the last time somebody called you Nicole?
Oh my gosh. I mean, like my grade school teachers, like the first day of school, in high school, maybe.
Really? Hold on, Nikki,
Yeah.
hold on, because I'm hearing you through the thing. I want to hear you through this. Hold on a second. Hold on. 1 second here. I want to make sure I hear you through the... Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Now I got you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Was it where, in grade school, you said?
Yeah. I mean, the last time somebody called me Nicole was like probably what, the first day of high school of like 12th grade. It's been a long time.
Dude, you've done enough of this already to where now you have a sample size. Being a podcaster,
Oh yeah.
what has been interesting to you? What have you been like, you know what, that was cool, this thing sucked? Talk to me.
Oh my gosh. I've found that like when I am interviewing people, it's really important for me to have like preliminary conversations with them. Because sometimes like things don't always translate and people don't always want to do a podcast. Like they think they might want to do it and they don't want to do it.
You're absolutely
You know?
right. Especially as I did research on you, here's the tricky part. There's people flirting in the podcast world that shouldn't be in the podcast world.
Oh man. Yeah.
And when you interview them and they interview you, you can tell they don't know how to do the zigzag, because I think they get stuck in if they don't know if they're being ABC or if they're being, hey girl, what's up? Do you notice that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes I think it's hard for people to get vulnerable as it is. Like people are really concerned and we all are guilty of it, right? Like I'm guilty of it too. Like I'm concerned on some level, on some capacity about like what people think of me, if I'm going to sound like an idiot, or like what's going to come out of my mouth and is that going to be stupid or what? And I think it's like it's hard. Like and it takes practice, right? So like you only like I don't know that it's ever gets like super comfortable, right? Because you know that you're putting yourself out there, and anytime that you're leaving yourself vulnerable to a lot of people, or even like on any type of platform where people can like look and say, okay, have an opinion about it, like that's really intimidating for people. And so like in that, like people think maybe, oh yeah, like I think doing a podcast would be fun, or being a guest on a podcast would be fun. But then you get in the moment sometimes and it's like, oh shit, what I do? What did I sign up for? How am I going to get out of this? How am I going to make this smooth over? Things like that.
No, and you cut the time, you find yourself looking at the clock and going, okay, this is going to be at least 20 minutes and we're going to cut. Dude, I think, look, already the way you sound right now is way better than, because you're so natural right now that it's only going to get better. And it's really going to translate on your show. Because when you're being interviewed, it's almost like, listen, I don't have the pressure. You don't have prepared questions.
Right.
You're chill, right? So you're like, yeah, it's a party. But when it's the other way, it's almost like you're hosting the party. So you're worried about the person carrying the conversation. Do you notice that with you?
Totally. I'm like, and I have like 5 versions of the same question, like ready in case I like don't get the answer that I want. Right.
Oh
I'm like,
my
God. That's not what I wanted you to say. Like I'm trying to control the situation, which is like part of like a program that I run. I'm like trying to relinquish control, like not be so controlling and such a control freak. But yeah, like I'm like, okay, what if they don't, this is what I want to hear. What if they don't answer the way I want them to? Let me ask this question in 5 different scenarios. And like, sometimes people are like I said before, I'm like, I'm in my head, I'm like, but it wasn't how I wanted you to say it.
And especially you're interviewing serious people. So these are not like, you're not interviewing comedians, you're people that are fucking around. You're interviewing serious people that I'm sure everything gets taken literally. So they're like, no, Nicole, like I said before, like let me reiterate. I think a show that will be awesome is you taking control of conversations. And just seeing people's reactions, and literally you saying, okay, that's not the way I wanted it. Like you talking to a camera. Now we're gonna go this way. I think that'd be so cool, man. The art of dancing. There's 2 other former Heat cheerleaders that
Dancers.
I've worked.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. I messed that up. Fuck. Dancers. 2 former dancers that I'm very good friends with and that I've trained their kids, right? So with you now, the dancing thing,
Mhm.
how do you view that for girls? I'm sure when you were coming up, people thought that was the biggest joke of the world. Like, you're going to be a dancer. Are you crazy? How do you see that?
Man, no, I actually I never ever got that when I was growing up, like, "Oh, it's a joke, you're gonna be a dancer." Like, it was the best form of self-expression that I could have ever had in the shit show that was my upbringing, and, like, I need to put a disclaimer out there, like, my just because, like, some parts of my life were total chaos, like, there were also, like, really great parts of my life too, and dance, like all my years dancing, those were really special moments in my life, like my coaches and my teammates and having that bond with the people. And, you know, I don't think it was crazy at all. Like I don't to me, I wasn't even thinking I wanted to make a career out of it. I just wanted to express myself because my voice had been taken from me early on and I didn't have another way to express myself. So like going to the dance studio, being the first one there and the last one to leave was a way for me to get out of my house and really like live, right? And feel alive for like those hours in that day. Like, I don't think there was any type of concept like, this is what I want to do. Like, not even until later. Like, my dad was the one who told me to try out for the Miami Heat dancers. I was like, honestly, straight up, I was like, those are a bunch of hoochies that shake their tush and they're at the Heat
And
games,
hook up with players and coaches. What do you think?
Wow, come on now. Come on now. I
No,
have a
joking.
whole thing to say about that. Well, I'll get really real with you about that if you
We're gonna
want
get to
to
that
hear
later.
it.
No, we'll get to that later. Listen, it's
Okay.
interesting because I have so much empathy for you because every interview that I tried to see of you, people go real deep. And it's hard because once you go that deep with you, it's like, dude, let's come out, let's breathe a little bit. But
Yeah.
it just stays in there, And I can relate to you on so many levels. But before we get into all that, because we have so many similarities, the dancing part.
Mhm.
Did you have a natural gift towards it? Do you have rhythm? How did you become such a good dancer?
Thanks. I think one of my gifts is my connection to sound and music. And so like I feel music, right? And I can hear like the intricacies of music and pitch and all these things. And so I think that makes me deeply connected to music and like it gives me an ability to now like move my body to it. Um I am not the most talented dancer. I'm a good dancer. I'm a quality dancer. I work really hard. I worked really hard at being great. And I was never actually technically trained. Like I learned I call it the street, but it wasn't the street. Like I would watch other kids dancing and I would try to pick it up. Like I would teach myself. I'd go back to my house and dance in my room and I would teach myself. I didn't have a formal training. And I did competitive cheerleading for a while and that got me into dance. But that was like it was a whole different environment. I didn't have somebody, I taught myself all the technical things of dance. Um, yeah, I don't think I was like exceptionally good, but what I do think that I had was presence and I had a deep capacity to feel and inspire feeling in others. So I think that's where my skill really was. And so I always joke that I didn't make the Heat dancers because I was a great dancer, but more because I had like presence.
You had the
And the
vibe. Yeah,
ability to
yeah, yeah. You
connect.
had that vibe. That vibe. You can't listen, it's hard to teach that vibe. You're either born with that or you learn little tricks to get it. So that's interesting. Who's your person then? Was it J Lo? Who's your dancer? Because I'm sure, or was it Dance Fever? Who do
No,
you
I'm like team Britney all the way.
really?
Like I am so team Britney. Yeah, like J Lo was up there, Shakira was up there too. But yeah,
Britney. What's going
yeah,
on with her family situation? That's a crazy situation, huh?
man, I don't know. I try not to get into it because it like takes me back to my like teen years and my like how heartbroken I was when she broke up with Justin Timberlake. Which whatever.
let me
Talk
tell
about that
let
too.
me,
But
let me tell you a funny story. My boy in Los Angeles was a bail bondsman, and he lived in this community in it's in the valley,
mm,
and Slash lived in front of him, and next to him, K-Fed lived.
mm.
And K-Fed, every time I went to his house, K-Fed was outside just playing ping pong
No, funny.
with a wife beater on, just the happiest guy, just playing ping pong all day long. It was the best,
I
man.
mean, I think he only owned wife beaters, right?
It was. You know what's another interesting thing that you bring up, Brittany? I remember I was in Vegas when the whole Britney thing to her to perform
Mm,
at the Planet Hollywood.
mm.
which she was horrible because the poor girl, she didn't even move. It was, I heard everybody that went was a disaster.
Man.
But I remember her talking about the guy who negotiated, I think it was Michael Jackson, somebody huge to go on the strip, had talked to Britney to bring Britney to Vegas. Britney in her heyday.
Yeah.
And look how sad her response was. There's no way I can have my husband in Vegas for a residency. How
Wow.
crazy is that, huh?
That sucks.
That she knew she was with a maniac, man. That is crazy. You did the dancing. How long were you a Heat dancer for?
I was a dancer for 3 years for the Heat.
For 3 years.
Mhm.
How hard is it to learn the moves?
Yeah, it was hard. I get in my head a lot, so, like, I get anxiety and I start to, like, freak out, but I actually, like, I can retain information pretty well, and then I actually went on to teach dance, like, while I was a Heat dancer, and, like, when I became a teacher, that's when I was really able to retain choreography, and I think that's really interesting about, like, teaching, right? When you start to teach things, like, it's almost like you have an opportunity to relearn the
Hell
craft
yeah.
or, like,
Yeah.
the subject matter or whatever it is that you're studying or teaching.
Dude, when you dance, do you fight for position? How do you
Oh
know
my
who
gosh.
goes
Well,
to
back
the front?
then, I don't know how it is now, but, like, back then, we would even in, like, auditions, they would group you by, like, what you looked like, right? So, like, all the fair-skinned blonde girls would be together, but then all, like, the Latina-looking blonde girls would be together, and then, like, the light-skinned Latina girls, and the dark-skinned Latina girls, and then the light-skinned black girls, and the light-skinned the dark-skinned black girls, and then, like, Asian women, like, so it was like that. It was, like, really competitive in that way.
Uh-huh.
And then, like, even, like, to perform at the game, you would try out to be in the game. Like, you had to qualify to be in the game. Like, to
No
perform
way.
at the game. Yeah.
So then what if you don't get picked? What do you sit on the bench or something?
Yeah, they would see you like, you wouldn't be able to go on the court.
Oh my God. Dude, these past couple days you've been endorsing with some fashion thing or something?
Yeah, so I've been working with a company called Shopflix. They're a startup, and so they're just,
Look
like,
at you.
interviewing. They have, like, they have a little show that they're pursuing. It's not a little show. We're hoping that it goes big, but it's a shopping network, and so they're interviewing with local business owners around, like, different hotspots of Miami that feature art. So for me, that was, like, a no-brainer because I'm getting into this, like, sphere of hosting,
Hell
first
yeah.
of all. Second of all, there's, like, has an art element in it. I studied art history, and I was an art dealer after I became a Heat dancer.
No
And
way. You were an art
yeah.
dealer. Like
Mhm.
Jeffrey Loria. Look at that.
Okay.
Let's talk that, dude. That's an interesting subject. Let's talk about the art world.
Yeah.
How do you get that eye?
I mean, I studied art history, right? In the art world, I think you generally have to have an appreciation for art in the gallery world, right? Like, because there's two ways you can go about it. Like, if you study art, you can either be a gallerist or you can, like, work in a museum. But working in a museum, you have to go, like, get a PhD and speak, like, 7 languages. I'm being like dramatic, but you have to
No,
definitely
you have.
be
It's a different
fluent in
culture.
multiple
It's a different
languages.
culture.
Exactly. And so it's like it's a lot of education, it's academia, and then if you're like me and you got a bachelor's degree in art history and honestly in anything, you can go into an art gallery space, and as long as you're a great salesperson, you'll make a killing doing it.
Really?
But yeah, for sure. Like, it's a sales job. And I didn't know that when I was coming out of college. I was like, so at first I had such a funky relationship with money. Like, my relationship with money then was so messed up. Like, it was just, I was a hoarder. I didn't want to spend money. I, like, looked at people who had money like they were, like, arrogant. All of them were arrogant. Like, right?
Right.
I
Right.
stereotyped people with money as, like, arrogant assholes, which is
Right.
so, like, false. Like, it is like a false thing that I created in my own head.
Right. Right. Right.
But
Right.
so it actually made it hard for me to sell art because I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm selling Ferraris to a bunch of rich, pretentious people. And I'm not saying that there's not that. Like, there are a ton of people in the art market that are pretentious, regardless of their income, right?
Right.
It's going to be, you're going to find everything everywhere you go. But like, once I had my kids, I came back around afterwards and I started selling art again. And like, just, I had done so much work in that time that my relationship with money and the cost of things and the value of art as a whole has changed. And I actually became a lot better at it. And it's crazy because, like, back in my early 20s when I was selling art and had all these, like, whatever beefs in my mind with, like, the industry, I was still making, like, really good money as an art dealer. And so there's a ton of money in art. especially right now during the pandemic, the art industry like took off because people were spending so much time in their homes.
Right.
So the people who had the income to spend, they were like, okay, let me now is the time for me to invest in art since I'm here all the time. The eye is really like, to answer your question about how do you have the eye for that, I think it depends on like which gallery you're working with. Like you have to be intentional about what gallery space you're partnering it with, right? I do enjoy street art. My taste is like, I think my taste is my own. It's definitely more contemporary, more like, I want to say out of the box, but that sounds like so generic. All right. Like I'm using a generic term to try to describe something that is not
Nikki, is
generic.
that picture behind you? Is that your vibe?
Yeah. So this is like more modern art, like a little bit older. This is one of those frame TVs. It's like people
Oh,
actually think it's a piece of art. Isn't that nice?
dude, what's your favorite piece of art then that you own? You have to
I
have
mean,
one.
that I own. I own artwork from this artist named Flori. His name is Christopher Florentino. He's amazing. He does, it's like it's not street art because he is using like watercolor and acrylics and all types of mediums and crayons, but it's just like he has this whole series, like cubist series, that like touches on the cubist period from way back when. And then he also does like a modern series, which I totally love. It's super super colorful, it's abstract, but it's fresh and it's new, so it doesn't feel like fuddy-duddy. I don't know, it doesn't feel like old fogey.
Nikki, isn't it awesome that you hear you talk right now about whatever you're passionate about? Isn't that the best thing in the world?
I love it, for sure.
It's
It's the
crazy,
best
huh?
thing in the world. Yeah,
The key is, how do you think now as a parent, right? You're gonna be able to transfer that to the boys. Do you think about that a lot?
absolutely. I think that we are always like, our kids are just learning so much from us all the time. So like, we have a piano in my home. It's the piano that I had from when I was 5 years old, that my parents bought me when I was 5. It's a baby grand piano. We have it. They play on it all the time. So they're exposed to the things that are part of my husband and I's life, right? They're exposed to sports, they're exposed to music, they're exposed to like, I know, like we watch movies because I love cinema and I love plot development and I love language and I love storytelling, right? Like these are things that I love, that I'm like trying to instill in my kids' lives, but also like having to work hard and seeing their mom and dad go to work, right? Like they see their father on TV. You know, we
Right.
have discussions about travel, which is hard for little kids to understand. Like little kids don't have a concept of like time so much, right? So they just think sometimes that daddy's leaving, and we make an intention in our home to discuss what he's doing, right? Even today, like I'm like, okay, I tell my kids, I'm like, all right, mommy's going to record something for work. And my son asked me, are you leaving? I said, no, I'm going to be working. I'm going to be home, but I'm going to be working and you can come visit me afterwards. And it's just like
Nice.
instilling that we, more than like the work to like make money, it's working to fulfill your heart, right? The things that you love to do. Like I always tell them, I don't tell them because they're 3 and 1.5. So let me
Yeah.
get this straight. When I think about parenting and I talk about it with my peers, I tell them that like I don't want if my kids want to be a plumber, a custodian, a mail person, a firefighter, a
A
professional
TikToker.
coach,
A TikToker.
whatever. Yeah, like I just, if it fulfills them and it makes them happy and they have a sense of peace in doing it, you know, if it's because of the job consistency, if it's because of consistent income, whatever it is, I just want them to find peace and be proud of what they're doing and do it with integrity.
I love that. I love that. Nikki, so I had George Lopez on the podcast,
Mhm.
and when I talked to him, he said something real interesting. He said, when people, because he comes from a fucked up background also, he goes, man, when people start sharing their stories, it's almost like a one-up thing. Like, oh, you thought your situation was bad? My situation, look at my situation, blah, 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 right? And I was, man, that's interesting. What I try to do is I try to share in the fucked upness, like, dude, this sucked for everybody, So you mentioned, from what I've heard, your mom
Mm,
comes up, right?
mhm,
Your dad, let's start off with him because I have a daughter.
mhm,
Usually girls are daddy's girls and they look up
mhm.
to them, and their dad sends. If I could tell any guy advice, and it's interesting, any guy advice when they pick somebody is, look at the relationship with the dad. Look at
Mm.
the girl relationship with that, because if not, listen, it's gonna be work. How was your relationship with your dad?
My dad is the best human being I know in this world. My relationship with my father growing up, it was really, it's sad when I look back because I'm like, there were so many years that my dad probably felt really isolated in his marriage, and I'm an only child. And so, like, I felt isolated from my mother and abandoned by my mother in so many horrific ways. But my dad and I were buddies. We did everything together. So, like, my mom would fall asleep really early, and my dad and I would go do things. We'd go to the movies. We'd go to, like, y'all remember Hot Wheels in
Oh
Kenville?
yeah,
We would go
Monday
to Hot
nights at Hot
Wheels.
Wheels.
Oh yeah. So, like, he was my best friend. Like, I wanted to be a dancer, so he made it happen for me. He learned all this dance terminology. Like I said, he was the one who inspired me to try out for the Miami Heat dancers. My first game that I ever went to was because he got me tickets to see the dancers, not to watch the basketball game. So I didn't know who we were playing or what the deal was, but that's what it was. And he was my biggest supporter. And my relationship with him, like, evolved through time, right? Because after that, when my parents got divorced, he started seeing someone, and
How old were you when they got divorced, Nikki?
I was 18 when my parents got divorced.
Pretty old, pretty old.
Yeah, yeah, I was totally like a young adult,
Right.
but, like, at the same time, like, my childhood was really, like, dysfunctional in a lot of ways. And so we can talk about, like, how mature I was, in like, I was an adult in so many ways,
Right.
but I was like a child in so many other important ways. So my dad remarried. She was like, whatever. She was not awesome. And she kind of like Cinderella.
You knew it from the beginning, Nikki. You're like, this is gonna suck. You could tell.
Yeah. I was like, this is not good.
And you
And
told
then,
him? Did you tell him?
yeah.
And he didn't listen?
No, but like, and like at the time I was really pissed off about it, right? Like, I was pissed because, like, this was my person, right? In hindsight, now as an adult, I know that my dad deserved to try to find his own happiness. Like, I
Of
know
course.
that as an
Of
adult,
course.
like, he deserved to find his own happiness. My dad is pretty young too. Like, he's 60 now. He's a young dude. He had his life ahead of him still. So, but it was like a Cinderella situation. Like, like, new lady came in, like, kicked me out of the house, moved her daughter in, and I was on
Oh.
my own. Yeah, and I was pissed off too. So, like, I worked 3 jobs. Was a dance teacher, worked at a frou-frou clothing boutique at the Village of Merrick Park, and
Which
I would
one?
work
Which boutique?
at Diane von Furstenberg. Yeah, so DVF, super, like, powerhouse women supporting women lady. And I go danced at Cameo and Live at night. Like, that's what I did because I was paying my own bills. I was hustling to, like, pay my rent on my own and, like, pay my tuition, and which I graduated having no debt, which I was really proud of because I
Go dance like the girls that dance in the clubs?
with their clothes on.
I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not
Just
even though,
clarifying.
wait, well, hold on. They're not wearing dresses either. They're dressed pretty
Okay.
sexy.
All
Come
right.
on, Nikki. Come on,
Yeah.
Nikki Spo.
Fine. Fair.
unless unless it was church night and you're up there with the long dresses, I'm sure that's doing sexy.
Okay, fine. It was cute. Yeah.
I know it was cute. Now, how hard was that for you, man? Because you like, fuck, I'm gonna go dance now. Because if you're a bottle service girl, you could kind of hide whatever you're going through because you're literally making so much money. But as a dancer in clubs, I don't think you're crushing it. So how
No,
hard was that to yourself? Like, fuck, I gotta go dance at a club now.
it sucked.
It
It
sucks, right?
sucked. It
Yeah.
sucked. I hated it. I went through some shit, like, during that time in my life. Like, oh, it was bad. It was bad. It was a bad time in my life. I was like, my dad is not in my life anymore. Like, we stopped talking altogether. Like, I'm hustling nonstop. I have no life. I don't know where I'm going. Like, I don't know where I'm gonna get.
Nikki, at the time you were single,
I mean, kind of.
kind of there. No,
Not
because
really.
as if you're dating a dude, right? Listen, no dude wants his chick dancing at a club. That's number one because it's so hard unless you really care about the girl. That must have been hard too, right? Like dealing with a relationship, like fuck, this shit sucks, right?
Yeah. It was hard. It was hard to, like, stay with people. It was hard to, like, get to know people. It wasn't, it was not an ideal circumstance, but I did wind up hustling so hard and I saved all my money. And then I moved to LA and I was like, YOLO, F it. I'm going. I'm
You
leaving.
lived in LA? I didn't know
I
you
got
lived in
the F
LA.
out of Dodge, like, I was just like, I got to get out of here.
Where did you live in LA?
Oh, West Hollywood, which I wouldn't do if I ever had.
What part of West Hollywood?
I lived on Fountain and Fuller, right by Runyon Canyon.
Nikki Spo, I lived here. You want to hear my LA story? Here's the fun of the story. I lived in a car for 6 months in the Hollywood Hills. I would
Wow.
shower and shave at the Equinox in West Hollywood.
Stop it. I was a member there.
Yeah, that's the best. Listen, for gyms, that's the most popping gym on the planet. Let me tell
That was
you.
a good
Okay,
one too. The West Hollywood location is bomb.
sick. Only problem is the dude ratio got real heavy at nighttime showering, and that was a little
It's
difficult
West
for me.
Hollywood.
It was. I had no idea what West Hollywood. You know why I slept in West Hollywood? Because I thought that's where the studios were.
Right.
So I'm literally there 6 months, like an old man. I went from there, North Hollywood.
Yeah, I was about to say you got to get over to NoHo.
Yeah,
Like, where we
some
gonna-
NoHo action. North Hollywood, Woodland Hills,
Yep.
Studio City, which is beautiful. Studio City is awesome.
That's
Studio
where I first
Ci-
lived.
Yeah,
Yeah. I couch surfed in Studio City for a bit.
you did, dude. I did Studio City. Then I did Bel Air, Beverly Hills,
Ooh.
Sunset Plaza. So we
All right.
upped it a little bit. There's nothing like being from Miami and living in California. That weather, the vibe, people see us differently than here, dude. Tell me about your LA experience, man.
Oh my gosh, it opened my eyes to so many things. It opened my eyes to so many things. Like it was a really hard adjustment at first because like I lived in Studio City, but I worked in West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. So like and then I eventually moved to West Hollywood, and like I got wrapped up in the club scene and the nightlife there. And it was the first
What were
time
the good clubs back then, Nikki?
Oh my gosh. I don't even remember. Oh,
It was an area, right? Was area?
No, it was an area. It was
How long ago was this?
in 2010. 2010. That's a good 11 years, you know, and I did a lot of
Guys and Dolls? Was Guys and Dolls
Guys
around?
and Dolls was around.
Yeah, that's when I was there. We were in LA at the same time because I left in
Nice.
2011.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
that's the same time.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy, dude.
So it was just
that
like
is
nonstop. Like it was just nonstop. Like that was like in retrospect, that was like my college experience because I stayed here for college, and you know, I went to FIU and I was doing the whole heat dancer thing, but my college years of like really exploring like my freedom and my power of choice
right,
without
right.
where I was making a salary that I didn't have to work 7 jobs, you know, like and do things that I
Mhm.
didn't want to do. I had a lot more freedom. I had a little bit more money to spend as well.
Right.
So I was getting into all the things, like all the good things and some wonky things too, you know?
Who did you hang out with over there?
Well, I had a big network of friends that moved from Miami to LA.
No way.
So I hung out with
Dude, you got
them.
lucky. You got
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah.
You want to hear a funny story? My best friend owns Sushiya. You ever eat at Sushiya?
Mm-mm.
It's on Sunset, right next to Le Petit Four. You've had to have eaten at
Yeah.
Le Petit Four.
No, for sure.
The sushi place right next to it is my boy.
All right.
So the next time you guys are out there. But anyway, dude, I love LA. You probably ate too at Porto's. You ever eat at Porto's?
I think so.
The
I can't
Cuban
remember.
bakery over there?
Oh no, I'm confusing that for something else. I haven't eaten at Porto's. Like maybe I didn't
Dude,
get into as much stuff as I thought I did.
No, you did great. No. It's just it was a great thing. You're over there. I never thought I would leave California, man. I
Really?
go, this is the greatest thing in the world. I struggled a lot. My biggest struggle, other than being young in Miami, was Los Angeles. For me, I popped so quick because of my vibe and my Cubanness and my whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
My positive attitude. I was the seeker before I knew what the seeker was. So everybody
that.
really gravitated towards me. But I had identity issues like crazy, Nikki. And then and I snuck into places. That's the key of my whole life. Is a Spanish word called un colao. This guy who gets into groups they shouldn't be in. That's my vibe. And probably like after from being in my car 6 months to coming out and to the real world and being in like Leonardo DiCaprio's house and these famous people's houses. And when things got to me, I should have said who I was. Say, listen, yeah, I've been sleeping in my car. I'm a public school kid my whole life. Blah, blah, blah,
Same.
blah. Biggest failure in the history of Miami baseball. Instead of that, I go, no, I used to play for the Yankees. I got injured. And I fit them all because I'm Cuban. I got the whole Cuban thing going and baseball thing going. And then the wrong person Googled me, Nikki Spo, and that's it. And I was kicked out. And I had that probably for 6 years that I was there because I didn't have a purpose when I was in Los Angeles. All of a sudden, I went there. You went there to act too, or you just went there to live?
No, I just went there to live, to get out of Miami.
I went to act, and I couldn't get an acting thing, man. I couldn't get an acting thing, and the only acting roles I would get was because I gave baseball lessons to the creators' kids. So I
Mm,
got on King of Queens, CSI, like I got on a lot of shows, but it was all because of this gift of me working with kids. And I didn't want to be a guy that worked with kids, ironically enough.
why?
So because I wanted to be a celebrity. I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be who I am now for the good, not for the evil. Because when I speak Nikki and I go to places, I tell people, I go, man, my whole life I wanted to be a dude that because my growing up was so unhappy, I related it to money. I go,
Mm,
we're not happy because we don't have money, not
right.
because of a million other things. No, it's because we don't have money. So money equals happiness.
Yeah.
So here I am, thrown in the middle of money, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I thought that me rolling up in a car and this presence and everything that was happiness. And now, as I'm Coach HP, I realize the more I lean into myself
Mm,
and who I am, and yeah, it might grow to something else, but at the end of the day, no matter how much I try, I'm a kid that went to public school, that took the yellow bus,
yeah.
that waited there, that didn't have a TV in his room,
Mm.
and if I would have done that over there, oh my god! But I learned that later, man.
Well,
How
we
long
don't
were
know
you
what
in
we
LA?
don't know, right? Like we don't know what we don't know.
Listen, of course, and as I one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the shows, I feel that you're a person right now that's at a very pivotal moment in your life because you have it split. There's no empathy for you. Like there's really no empathy for you, right? So
Mm,
because there's no empathy for you, people are either bullshitting you.
mm.
They don't really mean it, but they're like, ah, we're gonna bullshit this girl, right? And then other people are hating on you. So I almost feel that you're like in an island somewhere. And then now that you started to become Nikki Spo, there's really no like, oh, look at her. She's gonna start a podcast. What does she know? All this bullshit, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, I gotta get her on the show. I gotta give her props for what everything she's done so far, which is really to fucking start this is hard. To start this as the wife of a known person is the fucking hardest thing in the world because if you screw this shit up, whatever. Now it got ties to him. God forbid on a podcast you say the wrong thing,
Mm.
right? Which that
Yeah,
hasn't happened yet, right? But hopefully, but it's if you're speaking from the heart, it's gonna happen.
it's gonna
And
happen.
then that is another conversation, dude. So I have the utmost empathy for you, and I just with what you're doing, and why I say you're at a crossroad is because if we get you the right way,
Mm.
it could be fucking lethal because you could just really do a lot of impact, especially for good. Do you feel that at all?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. Like your words mean a lot to me. Like it is really scary to do this, especially like with my ties with my husband and just like creating a platform that like I know that there's a lot of bullshitters, where people might be just curious about like what our life is like together, what he's doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's super scary. So thank you. I think what comes to mind is like the difference between wanting to be a celebrity, which you like kind of touched on before, right? And really understanding your why, like why something has to happen. Because when you do things for the empty fame or like for the sole purpose of like whatever followers or look at me, and it's like a based in self-centeredness and it lacks humility. Like I don't think that that's ever really going to be fulfilling. And there's no amount of money in the world that can fill that hole in a person's heart, like or fame, right? That can like
Right.
fill a person. And so staying true to my why, like why I'm doing this, why I'm trying to pursue this avenue is central to me because I can get so easily caught up in fear of like what people are thinking. Like I think, and it's actually like narcissistic, right? Like a part of that is a form of narcissism that I think everybody's look at me when really like maybe I'm just not that important, right? But if I stick to what I'm doing, like, and I'm trying to just help women like come into a place of deep inner knowing within themselves so they can go live badass lives of their own. Like that's what I want to do. Like I don't give a shit what people think in the sense of like, who does she think she is? And like that voice plays in my head a lot. So it happens and it takes work
Really?
for me to be like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like it just doesn't matter. Like people are going to be hating on me anyway. Like if I'm sitting at home, they're going to be like, oh, she's just like the cute little trophy wife or whatever. And like, of the heat coach and meh. And
Yeah.
like, she's just like a queenie with her kids. Like, oh my, who does she think she is? Right. It's all of that. Right. And I was getting that. And let me tell you something, Coach HP, you know this. It's like when you're not living in your true potential, like it deteriorates your soul. And so that's what I was doing to myself, like by doing that. I'm like so concerned about what other people are thinking of me and like trying to live up to some like made up concept that like doesn't even exist, that I was like hurting myself, right?
One
I,
1000%. And with so much talent, man. And as I hear you talk about all this is the person that I think you're going to become on your podcast. Because who you are talking to me right now,
mm,
that's what's going to be fun. Because when you tie this, not that you're not this, but you're still like thinking a little bit, for
yeah,
a
for
lot of
sure.
reasons. For a lot of
Yeah.
reasons. I get lucky because like, I'll give you a perfect example. I think you did such a good job on Gail's podcast. Gail's my boy
Thank
on
you.
the Boys and Girls Club one, or Big Brother Big Sister one, right? The
Mm,
problem is he can't go deep on you because it's Big Brother Big Sister. So he's got to keep it like in a very like, hey, well, let's go back. You know
PG.
what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly. The beauty of this right now is we could throw down whatever you want to throw, and nobody gonna tell us shit. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm,
for you, that's gonna be super liberating because you got so much to share, man. Your mom, is your mom still alive?
she is.
Okay. How's your relationship with her? Is that even existing now? Do you feel a lot of guilt with her? Do you feel ashamed of her? How do you deal with that?
No. So I am grateful because in my sobriety, in the earlier months of my sobriety, I hadn't even reached a year of sobriety yet. I was able to go into my mom's home. My mom was an active alcoholic, using
Right.
alcoholic, and I was able to go and help her and send her to treatment, which is not something that I would have ever done if I did not have my sobriety.
Right.
Uh, I faced my abuser in a lot of ways, and I literally cleaned her up and got her on her feet for a bit. And so I was able to send her to treatment. And so she wasn't at my wedding. She hadn't met my kids at this point. Like, so I don't have a relationship with her because it's not healthy for me to do that. Right. I have a family of my own now, and I have
This is
to
right
like,
now, so you don't have a relationship with her.
it's complicated. Like, so I no, I don't talk to her at all.
Nikki,
Because it's
you're
not
talking
healthy
to
for me.
no. Listen to me. This is why I love. This is one of the reasons why you're the best. Listen, my dad lived his whole life. Okay, my dad lived his whole life for this moment right now to be a grandfather.
Mm,
Okay, Father's Day just passed, but like 2 weeks ago or something. That marks the 12th Father's Day that he hasn't seen his grandkids on my sister's side,
mm,
and I haven't spoke. And I was his last hope, and I was his whole thing. I haven't spoken to him in 2 years, and he
mm,
doesn't know my kids. And I
mm,
have two of them. And he lived, Nikki, for this moment. All in there's a tree called there's a fruit in Spanish called mamey. You heard of that fruit?
mhm. Yeah.
Mamey. We have a mamey tree in the back of our house. And my dad used to force me to sit there and he'd tell me stories. He'd be like, no, when I'm going to be a grandfather one day, I'm going to have this house paid off. You're going to come here with the kids and this whole beautiful thing. And he ruined it all himself. I got so much respect for you. And I'm going to tell you why. I call it the Cuban guilt. Like there's
Mm,
so many people living life obligated to their parents when it's obvious their parents continue to fuck up while you're an adult. And I
mm.
hate to say that, but you can't have your parents ruin your life, man, your kid's
Right.
life.
So one of the things that like when I was going through the whole process of like deciding whether or not I wanted to invite her to my wedding, people were like, but she's your mom. You're going to regret that. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I think you guys are thinking about your relationship with your mom, how you would
Exactly.
love to have her there. Like I cannot, like I personally cannot. And oh, but you're going to regret it, Nikki. And I remember thinking, well, then I'll have to cross that bridge when I get there. I just have to cross that bridge when I get there. And there's a distinct moment in my life that I remember. I was laying in bed with my husband and I got a call in the middle of the night. from the fire department that my mom had fallen and that they couldn't take her in. She was woozy, not talking right, and that they needed me to come over. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is a really important deciding moment in my life as an adult with my own family. Like if I go over there in the middle of the night, then I am chained to this forever. If I say that I've done my part, I've done my best, my mom is responsible for her own choices. You cannot fix other people if they don't want to change themselves. You can't make healthy choices for a person who is committed to being unhealthy. And I decided, and I cried that night, and I'm like, I looked at my husband and I was like, I'm not going to go. And that was really crazy for me. I was like, and I had to like really like look within and say, okay, if something really bad happens, if the worst case scenario happens, am I going to be able to live with myself? And I had to really work hard to absolve myself that my mom's choices are not my fault.
1000%, dude. I love that mindset because my parents are gonna. So my parents got separated after 30 years. My
Mm,
dad's the youngest of
wow.
15 kids.
Wow.
My dad prepared me for everything in life, Nikki, except to deal with him.
Mm,
I was glued to him 24/7, always with old people, always giving
mm,
me life lessons. But he beat the shit out of me every single time I failed in baseball. So you're talking about a sport that out of 10 times you're going to fail 7.
right.
And we're talking about closed fist, destroyed me in front of everybody. Nobody did anything, including my mom. Right.
Yeah. Right. I'm
So
sorry.
as it in a weird way, it's almost, I don't know if it's the best thing that could have happened to, but I prepared for this moment of my life. I go, don't worry, one day I'll be free and I'm going to help people and I'm going to do this whole thing. But as I look at it now as an adult, right?
Mm,
My dad X'd himself out. He's like,
mm,
like you said, with kids, we just had, when I had Penelope, she was probably 2 weeks old. And my dad just shows up at my house unannounced. It just
mm.
shows up at the house. I was like, you crazy? Well, you've talked about this. Nobody's sleeping. Nobody's doing anything. And my dad just shows up and he's old school Cuban guy. And he wants like the visita. He wants the coffee and the
He wants to
talk and all
have
this whole thing.
dinner prepared for him.
You know, but it's in the morning, Nikki, which is even
Oh,
worse.
no.
He shows up at not 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning.
I
And I
can't.
pulled him aside. First time I've ever done this. I go, listen, man, because I had lived in Vegas. So I
Mm,
came back here in Miami and I had to control it. I go, listen,
right.
dude, you got to do me a favor, man. I go, Papa, you got to do me a favor in Spanish. I go, you got to call me, man. You just can't show up here. You got to
Right.
call me. You can't show up here.
Yeah.
Nikki, you know what he did? He
Oh,
shows
wow.
up, okay, like the following day and calls me from the driveway. He's parked in the driveway and he calls me. And I have those
Press what?
modern doors.
Like, I'm here, but I'm not coming in. I'm not like I'm not using the door, but I'm just in the driveway.
Nikki, you know those modern contemporary doors that you can see out, that you can
Oh
see
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just I just see my boy parked there in the thing of like, oh my
No.
god. He came in the house and a lot of people do this. I don't know if you remember people doing this with your kids. They talk indirectly through their kids, but they mean to talk to
Yeah,
you.
of course. Yeah.
Like, oh, your dad's so stupid. Your dad thinks he's so my dad started doing that.
I can't.
And then I gave him an answer back. And he goes, you could take your fucking house and all your money and all your bullshit, you can shove it up your ass. Who do you think you are? And he left. And as he's leaving, I grabbed him. I go, listen to me. You're going to make a mistake right now. You're going to regret this. You can chill. You can relax, whatever. But remember, you wanted your house respected. This is my house. You
It's your
got
house
to.
now. Right.
Nikki, he just took off, left. And here's the funny part. Like 2 days later, I'm giving a lesson there at the boys club, whatever, working with kids. And
Mm-hmm.
he just shows up like if nothing happened. So you know what I did? I go, perfect. I'm going to pretend nothing's happening too, but I'm not going to let you off the hook on this one.
Mm,
You're going to go on the record for this and you're going to have to come call me and tell me, listen, I'm sorry. I messed up,
mm.
whatever. That's it. Because and that's why I love you did that choice with your mom, because once you cut the umbilical cord of that, you're free.
Yeah, and I read something, or no, it was in like in one of the sessions of many, many years of therapy that I did to like, heal from the trauma that I endured when I was a kid. But it's like when you're a child, you don't have control over like what is done to you, right? You don't have control over your parents. You have to stick it out, right? Like for the most part, you have to stick it out. You don't have control. As an adult, you have the power of choice. You
Hell
now
yeah.
have the power of choice. And a lot of times as adults, like who were children that experienced trauma, we don't realize that we have choices. We go through our life thinking that we have no power and no voice and no power of choice. And so we become adults, and it takes a minute sometimes to look and say, okay, wait, I have the choice. I don't have to endure this treatment anymore. I can choose. Oh, but she's your mom. Oh, but he's your dad. You need to take care of him. You're obligated. No, I don't have to. I
Hell
can't.
yeah.
It's
Hell yeah.
not good for me. It's not good for my family. It's not good for
Hell
my
yeah.
health. For me, it's not good for my sobriety, which is the most important thing in my life. I will say that is my sobriety is the first thing in my life.
Nikki, that's interesting because you talk about sobriety. We talked about this during our conversation. I've never had a drink before in my life,
I
right?
know you told me that.
Yes. The only time I ever tasted alcohol was when I would kiss girls that would drink in clubs or whatever. And then I'd be like, oh, that tastes interesting. But I never tried it, never tried drugs, never tried anything, right? My dad, I think if I look at it now, he's an alcoholic
Mm,
because he was always drinking, it was always beer and stuff like that, right? You now, the hardest decision is to realize that you have a problem. Before you even get help, you got to realize, fuck, man, I'm fucked up. I need help,
yeah,
right?
right.
How did you get there?
Oh my gosh. It was scary. It was scary. I was alone a lot, like my husband travels for work, and so
Right.
it like got a lot worse. I think it was always there. Like I was always the girl who would like drink all night long. Um
What was your drink of choice?
vodka soda. Like
Just
when I
vodka
was going
soda?
out. Vodka soda, like
Yeah.
if I was going out, and then like when I was home, like after I had my kids, I would drink wine.
Wine.
Yeah, because wine was it's always available. It's like totally normal to have. It's not hard liquor.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
So,
Right.
like, I got into this space where I would like mommy guilt or mommy wine culture, and I hate it now. Like, in hindsight, I just hate it. I just bought into it. I was like, I birthed a child, and so therefore I deserve to get lit tonight. And it just would start off really innocent, like one glass of wine to relax, but that became more and more and more and more.
Dude, I
And
have so much empathy for you in that because it's something that when you started to think, oh my God, I'm out of control. How did you notice that? You just noticed that I'm drinking every day, or somebody told you? How was that?
it was evident in my behavior. Like I was getting depressed. I was acting out. I would have blackouts. Like I wouldn't remember things. Like I would wake up and not want to see my son. I had one son at the time, like, and things like I wouldn't remember things from the night before. Like I would get into like fights, and not like physical fights, but like I'd get into arguments with people that like I wouldn't be able to recall, and I'd be like burning bridges that I couldn't even remember having done.
Damn.
So yeah,
You
and what's
you
crazy is like all my friends are drinkers, and my dad like drinks too, and like my dad and I like we went through life dealing with my mom, and so I wasn't doing any of those like those crazy things, right? So sometimes people think like, okay, no, you're not, like your life isn't a complete disaster, right?
right.
So you must not be in that bad of a space. But I knew I was in a bad space, and I knew that I was losing my soul. Like it was like soul crushing. Like I was just like I felt like I was in a box, and I just kept drinking because I was mad that I was in the box. And the more I drank, the more in the box I was. Like it was like
Dude,
this horrible like cycle. Yeah.
what's up with this postpartum thing, man? How
It's crazy.
crazy is life? And as a
Yeah.
dude who has two young kids, younger than yours, and I'm in the
Mm.
mix with it,
Mhm.
I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, there's we don't prepare anybody for anything.
Right.
Like they should in high school, there should be a class on postpartum. In college, there should be a postpartum thing of how to
For
deal with
sure.
postpartum. What are the signs? As a spouse of a person,
Yeah.
how to deal with it, how to not say, oh, you're crazy, or you're being a bitch, or you're overreacting,
Yeah.
you're stupid, you're thinking. What advice do you have for women that are feeling postpartum, that are feeling weird? How did you know? Was it that your hormones were all over the place? Talk to
I
me.
just knew that I wasn't myself. I knew that I wasn't myself, and I was like, I don't care what anybody says. Like I don't feel right. Like you can't convince me that I feel right. Like there's no convincing me. Oh no, just stick it out. Just be tough. You got this. No, I'm not okay. I'm just not right. And I need to go talk to somebody. And let's call it what it is so that I can get better. So I can get
Right.
help. And then like I'm not ashamed to say it. I went on medication for a bit because I was like, I need help. I'm not above that. Right? Like I'm here to live the best quality of life. It's the best thing I did was to get professional help. And I've been seeing a therapist since I was like a teenager. And this was just another time in my life that I was like, I have to utilize that so that I can get better. But it's all like a lot of it is related for me. Like the isolation, the no sleeping, like sometimes I wonder like how much of this is like the no sleep, like it gets fuzzy sometimes. Like how much of it is the no sleep and the erratic eating and like the complete like life change of having your first child, you know, and
Yeah.
having the
Yeah.
support systems in place to cope with those changes.
Dude, you said something interesting on a show. You said that, which I understand totally. You said, listen, and even having, which a lot of people be like, oh, she's so lucky. Even having a in-home nurse
Mm,
at nighttime is still weird because you have somebody in your house. You're
yeah,
responsible for them. You can't be yourself. You can't come out dressed a certain way. You got to be
right.
covering up. That's almost like a weird thing in itself, right?
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely it. I had like, and I had one person like, and it also is like the energy, right? Like it's very vulnerable to like try to leave your child with somebody that you're kind of just met, right? And
Yeah.
so like even when you're getting ready to like leave the house or something and you have like these concerns like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to watch the camera. I want to make sure that this person is doing the right thing. I caught somebody once, like I was trialing a baby nurse and then like I watched her on my camera and I saw her like yelling at my infant, like yelling at him, like telling him to shut up. And I was like, what the F? You know? Like, so it's like all of these things that are happening for new moms and families, like first time parents, especially like that they're like just like flying by the seat of their pants, like trying to figure it out. Like it's a lot. Like families and women especially aren't as supported as like people were back in the day. Like back in time, we used to live in villages where like the community took care of the children. You know, kings and queens, like the baby was handed off to like a team of nurses. You know what I
No,
mean?
and you're listen. Look at Simba and the Lion King. Now you you it's just because you fall under our category, which is I don't know what Eric's family situation is, but we have no help. So when you don't
Mhm.
have because if you had a solid mom, then it's different because then you could lean on her, you could do stuff. But when
Right.
you eliminate that, now it's you. And like you said, it's hard because you're like, fuck, I don't know what to do. You mentioned something here which I want to talk about, which is mother instincts. Mother instincts are so underestimated. You found something with your son, I think it was the lip thing,
Yeah.
that you were like, doctors are not seeing it. I've noticed something, right? My cousin is one of the best pediatricians in Miami. The dude's a beast, okay, his whole life. But we call people like that Guajiro, kind of like
Mm,
countryish in Spanish, like
mhm.
country like old school. They're like, just you'll walk it off or whatever.
Yeah.
I noticed when my wife noticed that when she was young, because she was a breech baby,
Mm,
she had her neck was a little torticollis, what it's called now.
mm.
And my cousin was like, nah, whatever. And we went to therapy for it. She did the little thing. She didn't have to wear the helmet, but we would have put the helmet if you needed it.
Of course.
People now, it's almost like, I want to get your opinion on this. And if you think about this, because you always think of, no wonder my mom was an alcoholic. Nobody supports these fucking moms. It's
Right.
just, that was maybe her escape. No wonder half these women are now going crazy because there was look at all these things. And some people fall under the thing of like, I don't know, if the old school did it, why can't you do it?
Right.
Versus not using technology. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, no, I think about it all the time because like I think my husband was that guy for a bit. Like my mom did it by herself, my sister did it by herself, and like all these people that we know did it by themselves, right? And I was like, well, whatever. Like we are not those people. And
Yeah,
like I'm like
yeah.
maybe their husband wasn't like in a traveling profession, like super intense like situation.
Dude,
Um, and maybe they were by themselves, like who knows? But we don't have to do things the way that our parents did them, right?
no
And so
way. No
it's
way.
funny because now like we went and we hired a night nurse and we have an amazing nanny who we love. It's been with us since our first son was born. And now my husband, when other men are like on the fence about whether to hire help, like I send my husband on to get on a call with them because he's like the biggest advocate of getting
1000.
help for your family, but also especially in the early days for the mom, right? For a new mom.
1000%. Yeah,
So
and you
now my
guys,
husband goes out and convinces all the other men,
I
like,
love
no,
it.
no, no, it's gonna be the best money you've ever spent, the best money you've ever spent. And I'm
I
like,
love
I
it.
I converted him like to
I
believe,
love it.
listen, he is a supporter of women in that way. And it's awesome to see it, because once you like get through this concept that women have to do and be all of the things all of the time, like everybody's going to be happier that way
Listen,
when we stop putting all that pressure.
1,000%. I always think that the woman is the superior here in genders. You guys are so much. The strength stuff is there, but just the internal strength you got to have, the mindset, the emotions, the body changes. That
That's crazy
that
thing.
period thing once a month destroys you guys. The PMS, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. It's so hard, and they don't talk to us dudes about that. It's literally
Right.
just go. Nikki, how are we doing in time? Are we doing good?
I'm good. You good?
I don't know. I'm ready to go. How do you feel? You feel good about this? You're
I
doing
feel
great.
great.
So yeah, you're
Yeah.
crushing it, man. You're crushing it. You mentioned that thing of always you, when we talked, you said something that you felt guilty of using your husband's success for your thing, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
talked about that.
So, okay, let me back up, because that's that's a loaded topic. When Eric and I started dating, there was a lot of talk like, oh my gosh, she's so much younger. She's a heat dancer. She
How
must
much
be,
younger? How much younger, by the way?
I'm 17 years younger than him.
Nice. I like it.
Mhm.
Go for it.
So she must be a gold digger, this and this and that, And I was young, like I was 20 at the like I have known Eric since I was 19 years old, and I'm 34 now.
I
So
know.
we've been like in love for 15 years now. We've been married. We'll celebrate our 5th wedding anniversary this year. But when we became like public with our relationship, people got really ruthless. Like there was an article that published a picture of my DUI mugshot. Like this is Eric Spoelstra's new little girlfriend. This is what he's dating, and that was like really humiliating for me. It was devastating. Like that was something that happened to me that I was private about, that I didn't tell my family about, my in-laws about. Like, so these are things that were like really, really affected me. And so I kind
Let
of
me ask
started.
you a question. Whoa. Let's not. We can't pass that.
Mhm.
Hold on 1 second. Do you still have that picture?
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta listen. That thing is huge. I think that's a huge point for you. That picture, number one. Number two, I would even make that. Listen, if that were me, that'd be the cover of my podcast. That's
Right. Like,
huge.
right. My like Instagram photo.
Dude,
Like,
I'm telling you, like a T-shirt, like
listen, I thought
that's
about it.
I go big on that. You even thinking of, because I'm sure maybe that crossed your mind, like, oh my god, if I go down, if I settle with this dude, he's known, my past is gonna come up. This is going. Did you worry about that at all?
A little bit, but it was like a totally different animal when I get like I'm at my place of work and like a gossip columnist calls me on the phone and is like, "Hey, can you tell us about this DUI that you got?" And I'm like, "What the f?" Like,
Wow.
what the f? I was like, "Holy shit!" Right? So that was, I mean, that was a crazy time. Like I was super embarrassed, and so I started to feel a lot of shame in who I was. And I'm not saying that it was just because of that moment, but like a lot of these things, like this narrative that was being like put out, right? That like people were giving like prematurely judging me um was really really difficult, and I started to put myself in the box. I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I was like terrified to make a mistake, right? So, but needless to say, these things happened, right? And I put myself in the box because I was terrified of like making mistakes. And so I would do that. And all of my things afterwards came like, oh my gosh, like I became like hyper paranoid and hypersensitive about things. And rightfully so. Like there's certain other things that happened after that that were like totally crazy, that I had somebody like threaten to kill me at my job. Like that was nuts.
Where
Like I
did you
was
work? Where were you working? Oh, as a teacher.
as a teacher, right? So I was a
Oh my
teacher then
god.
for 5 years at Slam Academy in Little Havana. And like a person would like harass me online and be like, I'm gonna come to Slam and shoot you. And
Why? Just
that
because
was
crazy?
yeah, this person was like, you got my man, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, and she's like, I'm gonna shoot you if you hang out with him again.
Oh
She's like, watch,
my
look out your window.
god.
I remember thinking like this person was like tweeting at me, like, look out your window. I'm like, I live in
Oh
a
my god.
17 on the 17th floor. Thank you very much. So I know you're not out my window, bitch, but like back
Oh
off,
my god.
you know?
Dude. That
So
is
all these things happen. Wait,
crazy.
but where was this going? Like, like having him and like using his, okay, like using his success, right? So, okay, then so this is all connected because like a part of me started like feeling like, no, 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 I need to prove I'm not a gold digger. I need to prove I'm not stupid. I need to prove I'm not a hot mess. Right. And I'm
Right.
like, what the F? I know who I am. I know who I am. I know what my intentions are. I'm not going to let you write a narrative about me. And so for a while, I like just didn't. I like tried. I would go into meetings and like pretend I wasn't married to him. Like try to like, yeah, like, oh, what does your husband do? I'm like, oh, he's a high school coach. They're like, you drive a really nice car for a high school income. I was like,
Oh my
okay,
God.
you know,
He's
I
really
can
good
get
at
that.
dodgeball. My husband's really good
I
at
was
dodgeball.
trying.
So,
Yeah, he coaches dodgeball for like a college, extracurricular thing.
oh my
I
God,
would
dude.
pretend. I would legit pretend. And if
Nick,
people, I felt like if people knew that about me, that I then wouldn't be like get real credit. That's what it is. I felt like if people associated me with him, that I wouldn't be credited for what my gifts are. Like
right,
it'd be
right.
like,
And if
oh,
only they
she's
knew
good.
your
She's good.
backstory.
What's that?
And if only they knew your backstory, that's proof enough.
Well,
Because
right. And
if,
so I think that's the power of it, like the power of
yeah,
telling your story, any person telling your story. I'm like, I know what my clout is. I know
yeah,
what my clout is because I lived it every day. And guess what? I still live it every day and I make sugar out of shit every day. So
right, right, right.
like that's what I have to just be really sure and affirmed in is that like, and it comes back to that, like knowing my why. Why am I doing this? Am I doing it for attention? No, I'm doing it to help people. Like that's what I want to do. I want to help people. I want women to feel less alone. I want women to know that they can be themselves. They can be all of the things. We're multifaceted. We are not one thing. I am not only Eric Spoelstra's wife. I'm not only a coach's wife. I'm not only a mother. I am not only a former heat dancer.
Right, right, right.
I'm like a lot of things. And I'm not saying that like I'm the best things. I'm saying I am many things.
Nikki, you mentioned something interesting there. You married a guy that hustled right from the beginning, that went
Super.
from video this to where he's at now. So
Yeah.
underestimated just because of the teams he had placed and the whole situation, all this stuff, man. What have you learned from him that you apply now to your success and what you're doing? What have you learned?
I get like borderline emotional thinking about it when I talk about Eric sometimes and how much I like admire him as a human being is that he is the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. He believes in his why more than anybody I know. He is committed to the process. He's relentless. He is unwilling to give up. That to me is beautiful. And I've seen it even like throughout the years of our marriage. Like we are unwilling to give up on each other, right? He has been relentless in pursuing the next thing. And what's great, what I find to be so admirable about him is that he's never really done it with the idea of getting to the next place, right?
Right.
He's not doing this to get that. He's doing this right now. So like he's doing this right now. Like let me take you back to like when he was a video coordinator and I didn't know him, but I know enough about him now to know like, and I knew him as an assistant coach. It's like he's doing his job in the moment to be the best person for the job in that moment for that job. He's not being the best video coordinator to get promoted to scout. He's not being the best scout to get promoted to assistant coach. He wasn't being the
Oof.
best assistant coach to be promoted to head coach. He was being the best assistant coach to serve Stan Van Gundy and Pat Riley.
Ah,
It was
that's
service oriented, and that's how he does it to this day. He is the best head coach he can be for himself in order to serve the players and our program.
what's up with the Olympic things? Does that have you excited?
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. I'm
You going to
really
Tokyo?
excited and proud that like Eric gets the opportunity to coach the US select team. So the select team is the team that like prepares that competes again, Team USA, to prepare them to go to Tokyo.
Has your basketball IQ grown obviously during all this time or no?
Okay, yeah. So it has. I am not a sports girl. Like I am not a sport. I didn't grow up in a sports family. I didn't know anything about
Right.
it. Like when I met Eric, I was like, I like when he said he was an assistant coach, I was like, so he's an assistant to the coach. So he's the guy who gets the coffee.
He's the coffee guy.
He's the coffee guy. And then when he told me he was getting promoted to head coach, I was like, you're kidding. how does that work? I was like, I just don't get it. Like it was a total ditz thing, like no perspective on it. And till this day, like you're not going to catch me watching like a football game by myself, right? I'm not like
Right.
putting soccer on by myself. Like now that I have kids, I'm like, I put it on to keep them in the loop of what's going on and the things that they like. They like soccer, they like football, they like basketball.
Right.
Everything that I know about basketball is because of Eric. I've learned so much through him, through his family. And like now, especially as a mom, that I'm like teaching, like like they'll ask me, they'll watch the game, and be like, "Mommy, what's going on?" And I'm like, I know this. I know the answer to that. Like I know the answer to that.
Do you
Wow.
have to watch the games now?
I don't have to do anything.
But do you like them? Do you like
choose
watching
to.
them?
I love it. Yes, of course. Like it's not like a task. It's like this is our life together. This is part of how we get to live a beautiful life.
Mhm.
Like my husband gets to go to work doing a job that he loves more than anything in the world. Like
I know, it's
not a lot
special.
of people are doing that.
Listen, and the stress that if coaching Little League is a big deal, a professional team, that stress is through the roof. And it's always like the vibe of the house. It's hard to be happy when you get destroyed or when you're on a losing streak and stuff like that. Do you notice that at all or no?
It's been hard. It's gotten so much better over the years. Like obviously, like relationships on their own without this, like without this pressure, like this type of job,
Yeah, yeah,
mix,
yeah.
like they evolve over time too, right? So like when you start to cohabitate with somebody, right? Like it was not as easy then because that was new for us. Like living together was new for us back then. Like now it's a lot better. Even like when we were married before we had kids, you know, there was more room like to like let like the disappointment linger, right? Now we have kids. There's disappointment. We deal with it. He deals with it on his own. I deal with it on my end. We deal with it together. But the next morning, it's still about our family.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
family joy is not determined by wins and losses.
I like that.
Period.
I like that. Nikki, do you wish you had a girl?
I am open to what the universe has for me. I really am. Like I love being a boy mom. I think it's awesome and I love having the responsibility of being able to raise good men
Hmm.
and really show them what it takes to be a good man, even though I'm not a man. But like just knowing that I can be responsible of how they're going to treat their peers, you know, or having not fully responsible because at the end of the day, they're going to be their own people, but like have a hand in teaching them how to treat people, how to treat women, how to treat people who are different than them, whether that's race, sexual orientation, gender
Right.
orientation,
Right. Right.
anything, right? Like old, young, everything.
Right.
Just teach them how to treat people with kindness, regardless of their differences, and how to also like stand up for what's right, right? I say a prayer with my kids every night. It's like I ask God for God to give them strength, kindness, compassion, and the willingness to stand up for what's right. And my kids have, well, my older son has that line memorized.
Look at
God,
that. I
please give me
love
the
that.
strength to be kind, brave, kind, compassionate, and always willing to stand up for what's right. My 3-year-old says that every night.
I love that. I love that. Nikki, couple more questions. Couple more questions because you're crushing it here. Do you see yourself getting a studio, or do you are you going to maintain in the house?
I want to get a studio eventually because I want to have my own space, like to leave and
Yeah,
compartmentalize a little bit better.
I like that.
You know, as a mom, and I think like it's great to be a working mom that works from home because I get to be very involved with my kids. But as my kids get older and like they eventually start going to school and have a more regular schedule, I definitely want to have like my own place so that I can separate.
And you're going to have a microphone and do the whole thing
Yeah,
and
like have
everything.
like a proper studio and like have guests be able to come
What
to
part of
my
town?
studio.
What part of town are you thinking?
I mean, who knows? Who knows? Like Wynwood is dope, and I think there's a lot of great spaces over there. Would love that. Like,
That's where Andrew Schultz had his
oh, really?
in Wynwood. Yeah, yeah.
And then what's this like? It's a new place. It's not new, but it's like north of like It's like Biscayne and like 30th. It's called. There's like a name for the neighborhood. I can't remember it.
Like Water's Edge or something. Is that what it is?
It's
Edgewater?
It's like north of Edgewater, like by Mandolin Aegean, that restaurant. It's like up.
Midtown? It's not Midtown, is it?
It's like past. It's a little bit past the design district. It's still up and coming, kind of.
Okay.
I'll figure out the name and I'll get back to you.
But
But
those
like
are good because you're close to the beach and you're close to the
right,
Grove and Coral
right.
Gables and stuff.
It's a little far for me, right? Like I would love to have an office space in Coral Gables, but I know that that's a little bit south for like people who live
And the yeah,
over
yeah.
the causeway or whatever.
And people that come, I totally get it. Totally get it. What's your favorite type of music?
Rock and roll and
Who's your
indie.
favorite? Who's your favorite rock and roll person?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Favorite Red Hot Chili Pepper song?
Oh my gosh, so many. Dosed, Can't Stop.
So those. What's your number one? Would it be those?
Yeah.
Favorite restaurant here in Miami, Nikki? Is there one you like to go to a lot?
I'm a fast food girl.
All right, now we're talking. Let's
Listen,
talk fast
it's like
food.
my secret thing that I
Okay.
love. I love fast food.
We're gonna
It's
get into
so-
fast food, but give me your favorite like restaurant. If you were to go out, what's your favorite restaurant?
Where do I want to go? I like to, I don't have a favorite. I like going to new places and trying new ambiances. Like Hillstones is going to be always our like my Eric and I together, like our favorite place to go because the food is always reliable and like we each are like the type of people that need to rely on like a good meal and something that is always consistent.
All
So
right,
we
all right.
go to Hillstones the most. Paracones. We used to love Paracones.
Dude, what happened to that place? Why did that place
So they're on
Im-
Coral Way now. They moved.
from Brickell?
Yeah, so they're just like off Brickell and like where Brickell meets Coral Way there.
What a mistake. That place was beautiful, no?
I know, it was beautiful, but it's still owned by Steve Perricone and he's still serving up the same good food.
That lasagna, man.
And it's a
lasagna's out of
staple. Like
control.
it's a Miami staple. So that would
The-
be, I think that would be my favorite.
That lasagna's out of control.
Mm.
You mentioned fast food. There was a time you said that you were eating a lot and you were eating a lot of fast food and you weren't working out, weren't doing anything. What is your favorite fast food?
McDonald's.
Okay, now you're
And
talking
then
my
Taco
language.
Bell is a close
Whoa,
second.
whoa, okay,
Taco Bell is
okay.
a close
I've
second.
never had Taco Bell in my life. That's disgusting. So we can get out of that.
You see,
I wa-
you see, it's like my secret. That's why I don't share it because
I
there's no
want to
carbs.
talk McDonald's. Let's talk
Okay.
McDonald's.
Okay.
We're going to take the step by step, okay? McDonald's breakfast. What are you having?
The McGriddle, a sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle,
With what else?
a Diet Coke.
That's it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Their
I would-
hash browns are a little bit oily for me. Like I prefer Burger King hash browns.
so you're going McGriddle. What type did you say again?
Sausage, egg, and cheese
Sausage egg and cheese with Diet Coke with
Mhm.
ice or no ice?
with ice.
Okay. I go sausage and egg and cheese McGriddle but I do that second. First, I go sausage, egg, biscuit,
Mm-hmm.
okay, with grape jelly. Pour the grape
Yum.
jelly on the thing, right? I eat the biscuit, then I go for the McGriddle, and I'm gonna tell you something that's pretty gross. I've never told anybody, but I'm gonna toast to you. And I do the Coke with no ice, right?
Okay.
You know what happens after? I don't know if this ever happened to you, but this is gross, but I'm gonna say it. I love sometimes the food comes back out a little
Oh, I
bit.
can't even hear this. So crazy.
I,
This is so crazy.
I chew it and I swallow it back in, and it tastes so good. Has that ever happened to you?
It has not. No, I can't say that it has.
Dude, with the McGriddle, you're the first person I've ever said this to, but I said, if I ever get the opportunity to share this, I'm going to share this.
I can't
So
believe that. I don't know what's worse, Taco Bell or that.
that could be that. That's gross, but it just
Right?
tastes so good with the soda and stuff like that.
The
Okay.
soda?
And I only do that with that. That's a sign that the food's horrible for you because the fact that it wants to,
Stop.
or that I'm eating it so fast, whatever. Let's
I
get
would
into
eat when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant with my second son Dante, I ate it like 3 times a week. It was crazy.
okay. Now, but let's get into lunch and dinner. So
Okay.
I would do the same lunch and dinner. Give me your lunch or dinner, both.
Okay.
McDonald's, give it to me.
Lunch is the 2 cheeseburgers with French fries and a Diet Coke.
Okay.
And like sometimes I'll add like a small order of the chicken nuggets.
Oh, I love that. All right. And
But
dinner?
I like to mix ketchup and mayonnaise together. And
Okay.
I put that on everything.
I respect that. And dinner?
And then that's like the crispy chicken sandwich.
Meal or just by itself?
The meal. Yeah.
With a Diet Coke.
Mhm.
So you're a Diet Coke girl.
I used to be like seriously addicted to
Seriously.
Diet Coke.
Okay. I go number 4, which is a double quarter pounder, plain Nikki with just cheese, large fries, large Coke, no ice, 6-piece chicken McNugget, just the nuggets,
Mm-hmm.
4 sweet and sour sauce because I'm sweet and
Mhm.
souring everything
That's
there.
pretty good too, though.
And then, which I'm super pissed that they did this, caramel sundae, extra caramel, 4 or 3 packs of peanuts. There's no more peanuts. And there's no more peanuts anymore.
I did not know that.
There's no more peanuts. Yeah. See?
I didn't know that. But in college, when I used to get an A on an exam, which was actually often, okay, I would drive myself to McDonald's and get a fudge sundae.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With peanuts or without peanuts?
Without peanuts, but like extra fudge.
Extra fudge. Wow.
I don't like nuts.
I peanut and ice cream. I don't know why it tastes so good. Yeah, Nikki, I'm the happiest guy in the world, man. And since I'm an extremist, I either do nothing of something or I do a lot of it.
Same.
When I go crazy, like I told my wife now, I go, don't test me. I was in tremendous shape as an athlete. It was whatever. I got married. Happy times. To me, I relate food and happiness a lot of time. And if I don't, and I've been an athlete my whole life. When the pandemic hit, I dropped 45 pounds, and it isn't even noticeable, but it just was, And it's just I just think of Pepsi and I get happy. If I could dive in a Pepsi, I'd be so happy. That. It just with no ice, I just go like a vacation mode. You know what I'm saying?
Love.
Nikki Spo, I think I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you're outside of your comfort zone. I'm so happy that you are pushing the charge of what you're doing. I think eventually your show is going to become more than just women. I think you're going to go into the arts. I see that. Like you talking about art, talking about people's stories. I think you're going to go across. I think you're going to get into sports. I think you're going to use that avenue. In our conversation, I said it. I go, listen, I think this is your time to attack because you have everything in your favor. You're coming out of the pandemic. You're really in tune with yourself. When things come up, hopefully you're in a position where you can share them on your show. That's a benefit that I have. Like I wish I could share everything. I told my wife, I wish I could talk about everything. I feel bad for her on a couple of things, but I wish, because I'm an open book. Yeah. And I want to share everything with everybody. Before I let you go, any questions for me? Anything I can help you with?
I'm just grateful. Like I want to be like a student. I want you to teach like a class for me. Like I want to take your class.
But a class on what though? A class on
Coach
what?
AP class. Like just continuing to spread, like to connect with people. Like I feel like you are such a person who can connect with people and have the purest of intentions, and that resonates, right? Like it's not something that is even obvious at, like, it's not like overt, right? Like it's something that is just who you are. And I think that's so amazing. And I think I just want to be more like that. I want to be able to serve people in a way that is not about me and more about them, and giving people power, right? And freedom in themselves.
I like that you said that, because I'm that way, because in a weird way, my life doesn't mean anything to me. And I'm the most positive guy in the world, but I've accomplished everything that I've wanted to in life. To me, my goal was never to have the number one podcast. I didn't think about that. My goal is just to be happy. I married the hottest woman that I can have. I never even wanted to get married. The fact that I got married was huge. The fact that I'm a faithful guy married, to me, blows my mind every single day. The fact that I have 2 kids that I wanted to be like Oprah. I wanted to everybody's kids be like my kids. And now I got 2 kids, so I can literally die today. Something happened to me today. I think about it all the time, and I'm the happiest guy in the world of all time, because my life to me now is like I'm on about time. So because I have that vibe, I never talk to anybody thinking, oh my God, this is my opportunity. Oh my God, here I can do this. I could care less about that. I talk about, this is my opportunity to help her.
Yeah.
The minute I get your info and I talk to you, that phone call, I'm so happy that I could be like, Nikki Spo, what's up? Like if I've known you my whole life, and then it's up to you. Like, and it's up to you to think, is this guy crazy? Is this fucking out of his mind? He's never met him. And if you don't like that vibe, you can hang up the phone and go somewhere else. The fact that I don't have to be like, hey, Nikki, how are you? This is Hector calling you from.
It's like blah, blah, blah. Right.
That to me, you have that. You've shown that on this show. This interview is going to go down in your career so big, because this is the most hair down interview you've done so far.
So far, yeah. You're right. You're right.
So you do the fucking Today Show or some bullshit. Well, you're going to do it. You can do it, right? You're going to look back at someone and be like, oh my God, where did I do this? Oh, the Coach HP show. That's right. The
No,
guy
I'll
who
never forget you.
slangs positivity 24/7. Same thing with you. That's what I think the future of your thing is. Did you start the YouTube yet, Nikki Spo?
Yes, I did. I did.
All right. So I got to subscribe to that. You didn't tell me.
There's
So,
one video up.
okay, we did that.
I like sent all of my stuff, my footage to my editor, and we're backtracking. So we're getting episodes 1 through 5
Perfect.
like edited to be ready for video. Yep.
How many episodes are you in the know with Nikki Spo? How many have you done? You said
We
5?
have episode 6 airing on Tuesday.
So you're airing shows every Tuesday?
Every other Tuesday. So
Every
every
other
2
Tuesday.
weeks, yeah, I release a show. I have about 8 recorded, and I have so I have them in the tank ready to go.
And you like that bi-weekly thing?
I do, yeah.
So it gives you time to do your stuff.
It gives me time to also be I'm a mom, and I have other things happening here. So it gives me time to get the rhythm. And this is so new for me still that a lot of it is still a learning curve, a learning process, doing the show write up, that takes me time. I like to
What is the show write up? Oh, your notes?
Yeah, I do show notes that I post to what is it?
Look at the Nikki Spo notes right there. You see that?
I love that.
That's the big notes right there, Nikki.
Yeah.
Dude, you are going to crush it. TikTok. Have you started TikTok yet? Nikki, you got to start TikTok, dude.
I'm going to start TikTok. Okay.
And but I don't want you to think of TikTok oh, I got to dance. No. You're a dancer anyway. So if you do that, that's a plus. But you clip your shows and you put it in that. TikTok is growing so fast that you can
I believe you. I trust you.
I'm telling you, I've gained in a week 500 subscribers, followers, whatever, in TikTok. Majority of them are young, but it's just a feature that I just answer because I can answer people back in video form.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody does that. Who's going to answer something? But I do. I take my time and I try to answer as many people as possible. Hey, thank you for I just say thank you for the comment. Have a great day. That's it. And it's a big thing. You're going to be in a big position to inspire a lot of people, Nikki Spo. Where can the people find? By the way, I saw 2 channels on Nikki Spo.
Yeah,
why did you split it up?
So my personal account is Nikki Spo. And that is where I've gained the most followers, and then my network is the largest. And so that my account there is verified. And I split off and I have a page that is The Know with Nikki Spo that is only podcast related things.
You don't think of doing both one together, Nikki?
Sometimes. Sometimes.
I like that because that way it's yes. You know why? Because the more people know about Nikki Spo, to me, the people that does Joe Rogan do 2? No, he does 1. And I think people are so interested in you. And the more people get to know you, I think the more they're going to like you. And your page is very Pottery Barn. It's very happy and cool. But when you start hitting it with your truth, that's when people are going to, and I told you this in the conversation, people are going to love you. And I think the more you show of you eating McDonald's, people are going to love that too. Nikki, don't leave.
Next time I go, I'll make sure to feature it.
Dude, you want a video to blow up? If you sit there, I didn't ask you this. I would love, almost like a creeper or cat away, eating it in my car alone.
I love it too.
Would you do that too?
That's what I do. I don't bring it home. I eat it as soon as possible.
No, or not eat, or not sit there. Unless in Vegas I would, because there was these nice ones in Vegas that had nice views and stuff. But I'd sit in my car with the AC, watch a YouTube something, whatever, and eat the McDonald's. Nikki, where can the people find you?
So you can go to www.nikkispo.com. My podcast, The Know with Nikki Spo, is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, you can reach me on Instagram at Nikki Spo and The Know with Nikki Spo.
Guys, everybody out there, give her love. Nobody from my audience hate on her. Give her love. I'm telling you, all the baseball moms that religiously ask me all these questions. Nikki, I got moms asking me why their kids cry and they need help with that. Nikki Spo knows a lot of stuff. Reach out to her, follow her, support her, leave her comments. All right, Nikki, don't leave. I'm going to hang up with you the right way. Don't leave.
Okay.